April 23, 1943. Casserine Pass, Tunisia. Private First Class. Daniel Walsh lies flat against a sun-scorched boulder, watching German soldiers through his binoculars. 200 yards ahead, a Panzer Grenadier patrol moves along the ridgeline. Behind Walsh, pinned in a narrow valley, 847 men of the 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment, wait for orders that could save them or kill them. They've been trapped here for 6 hours. German forces control the high ground to the north and east. A minefield, hastily laid by retreating Wehrmacht engineers 2 days ago, blocks the only viable escape route to the south. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Morrison, has 3 choices, all of them bad. Attack uphill against entrenched machine guns. Suicidal. Wait for darkness and risk German artillery. Zeroing in on their position during the night, probably fatal. Or attempt to cross the minefield in broad daylight, certainly fatal. Walsh is a scout, a reconnaissance specialist whose job is observing and reporting. He's 22 years old, from a farm outside Amarillo, Texas. No college degree, no special training beyond basic infantry school, and a 2-week scout course at Fort Benning. His equipment consists of binoculars, a compass, a notebook, and a signal mirror, a palm-sized piece of polished metal used for flashing sunlight to communicate over long distances. Standard procedure calls for simple codes. 1 flash means enemy spotted. 2 flashes means all clear. 3 flashes means urgent message, return to base. It's crude, but effective for basic communication across distances where radios don't work or shouting would alert the enemy. But Walsh is staring at a problem that simple mirror flashes can't solve. The minefield ahead isn't random. German engineers are methodical. They lay mines in patterns, creating kill zones with calculated gaps for their own forces to use. Walsh has been watching the minefield for 3 hours, studying the ground, noting where dirt has been disturbed, where rocks have been moved, where vegetation has been trampled or carefully replaced. He's identified a pattern. The mines follow the contour of the terrain, concentrated in the natural approaches where troops would instinctively walk. But there are gaps, narrow corridors, maybe 6 feet wide, where the ground shows no disturbance. The Germans need those gaps for their own patrols. The problem is communicating this information to Colonel Morrison, who's 400 yards behind Walsh in the valley below. The battalion has working radios, but using them risks German direction-finding equipment pinpointing their position. Runners would take 20 minutes to reach Walsh's observation point and return. 20 minutes the battalion doesn't have. German artillery is already ranging in on the valley. Within an hour, the position will become untenable. Walsh looks at the signal mirror in his hand. Standard procedure: 1 flash, 2 flashes, 3 flashes. Useless for what he needs to communicate. He needs to tell Morrison exactly where to walk, step by step, across 300 yards of mined ground. He needs to transmit precise navigation instructions, using nothing but reflected sunlight. What Walsh doesn't know, what he cannot possibly imagine as he studies the mirror and the minefield and the trapped battalion below, is that his next decision will create a communication technique that doesn't officially exist. A method the Army will initially classify as impossible, then reckless, then finally adopt as standard procedure for forward observers in mine warfare. They'll call it the Walsh method, though Walsh will never call it anything. He'll just call it doing his job. But right now, 847 men are about to die unless Walsh can figure out how to turn sunlight into a map. The North African campaign in 1943 is a nightmare of improvisation. American forces new to combat face battle-hardened German and Italian units that have been fighting in the desert for 3 years. The learning curve is steep and bloody. At Casserine Pass in February 1943, Rommel's Afrika Korps inflicts a humiliating defeat on American forces. Over 6,000 American casualties. The U.S. Army learns a brutal lesson. Training in Louisiana swamps doesn't prepare soldiers for desert warfare against experienced enemies. By April 1943, the tide is turning. British and American forces have pushed German and Italian units into an increasingly narrow pocket in northern Tunisia. But the fighting remains vicious. German engineers, masters of defensive warfare, prepare every retreat with devastating efficiency. They mine roads, trails, wadis, anything that looks like a viable approach route. They use the terrain ruthlessly, channeling attackers into killing zones. The mines themselves are diabolical. The Tellermine 35, a German anti-tank mine, weighs 20 pounds and contains 12 pounds of TNT, enough explosive to flip a Sherman tank or vaporize a Jeep. They're augmented by shoe mines, small anti-personnel devices made of wood and containing just enough explosive to blow off a foot or leg. The wooden construction makes them almost impossible to detect with the primitive metal detectors of 1943. German doctrine calls for mixed minefields, anti-tank mines on roads and obvious vehicle routes, anti-personnel mines scattered around them to kill engineers attempting to clear the anti-tank mines, barbed wire to channelize movement into mined areas, machine gun positions to cover the minefields, ensuring anyone who survives the mines gets shot. American forces have no good answer to this. Mine detection is slow, dangerous work. Engineers probe the ground with bayonets, crawling forward inches at a time, gently probing the soil at 45-degree angles, hoping to feel the edge of a buried mine without triggering it. Under fire, this process is nearly impossible. Most units simply avoid suspected minefields entirely, accepting longer routes and delayed advances rather than risk casualties. But sometimes there's no choice. Sometimes the tactical situation leaves no alternative to crossing mined ground. When that happens, American doctrine calls for artillery preparation. Blast a path through the minefield with concentrated fire, then rush infantry through the gap before German forces can react. It works maybe half the time. The other half, artillery fails to detonate enough mines. Troops enter the minefield, mines explode, everyone dies. The 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry, finds itself in exactly this situation on April 23, 1943. They've been advancing toward Tunis when German forces execute a tactical withdrawal, pulling back to prepared positions. The Americans pursue, eager to maintain pressure, then discover they've walked into a carefully prepared trap. German machine guns open fire from ridge lines to the north and east. Mortar rounds begin falling into the valley. Colonel Morrison orders his battalion to take cover, but there's limited concealment. The valley is mostly flat, scattered with boulders and scrub brush. Nothing substantial enough to protect against sustained artillery fire. Morrison's S2, intelligence officer, Captain Robert Shaw, spreads a map across the hood of a Jeep, studying the terrain. "Sir, we've got German positions here and here." He points to the ridgelines. "We can't attack uphill against prepared defenses. We need to withdraw south and request armored support." Morrison nods. "Agreed. What's our route south?" Shaw traces a line on the map. This wadi leads southwest for about 2 miles, then connects to the main supply route near Hill 295. If we can reach that position, we can consolidate with 3rd Battalion and organize a proper assault. Morrison looks at the wadi. It's the obvious route. Which means what? Shaw's face falls. "Mines, sir." "Almost certainly. Germans withdrew through this area 2 days ago. Standard procedure would be mining all withdrawal routes. Do we have confirmation? Aerial reconnaissance? Engineer reports?" "No, sir. But Captain Wheeler believes that Wadi is mined based on terrain analysis. It's the natural escape route from this valley. Germans would definitely mine it. Morrison stares at the map. So we're trapped. Germans above us. Mines ahead of us. Artillery will start hitting this position within the hour. Captain Shaw says nothing. There's nothing to say. That's when Morrison remembers Walsh. Where's our scout section? Forward position, sir. Private Walsh is on observation duty, about 400 yards ahead, watching the German lines. Can he see the Wadi? The potential minefield? Shaw checks the map. Yes, sir. Walsh's position overlooks the entire approach route. Get him on the radio. I need to know if that Wadi is actually mined, or if Wheeler's just being paranoid. Sir, if we use radios, German direction finding will. I know the risk, Captain, but if that Wadi is clear, we can withdraw immediately. If it's mined, we need to know now, so we can start planning alternatives. Get Walsh on the radio. Shaw reaches for the radio handset, then pauses. Sir, Walsh's radio has been intermittent all morning. The battery is low. He might not receive. Then send a runner. Sir, that's 20 minutes each way. Minimum. We don't have 40 minutes. Morrison closes his eyes, thinking. The sound of German mortar rounds impacting grows louder. Closer, the battalion is running out of time. Use the radio. One transmission. Keep it short. Ask Walsh if he can see mine indicators in the Wadi. If he responds, good. If not, we'll send a runner and pray we have time. Shaw keys the microphone. Recon 1, this is Battalion 6. Radio check. Do you copy? Over. Static. No response. Recon 1, Battalion 6. Radio check. Over. More static. Then a faint, distorted voice. Battalion. Copy. Breaking. Recon 1. Can you observe the southern Wadi from your position? We need mine confirmation. Over. Long pause. Static. Then Walsh's voice, barely audible. Affirmative. Can see definite mine indicators. German pattern. But the transmission cuts out. Recon 1. Say again. You're breaking up. Over. No response. Shaw tries 3 more times. Nothing. Walsh's radio is dead. Morrison stares at the southern horizon. Somewhere out there, Private Walsh can see what they need to know. He has the information that could save or condemn 847 men, but there's no way to retrieve that information. No time for runners, no working radio, no method of communication across 400 yards of ground under German observation. That's when Lieutenant James Patterson, the battalion communications officer, speaks up. Sir, Walsh has a signal mirror, standard scout equipment. If he knows we need information, he might try to signal. Morrison grabs the binoculars, scanning the forward area. Where exactly is Walsh's position? Patterson points. Near that large boulder, sir. About 400 yards, bearing 270. Morrison adjusts the binoculars. He can see the boulder, but not Walsh, who's properly concealed. Can he see us from there? Yes, sir. That position overlooks the entire valley. He definitely has line of sight to our location. All right. Send someone with a signal mirror. Have them flash Walsh. 3 flashes, urgent message. See if he responds. If he does, maybe we can establish basic communication. Patterson grabs a mirror from the communications kit and walks 20 yards from the command post into clear ground where Walsh will see him. He angles the mirror, catches the sunlight, aims toward Walsh's position, and flashes. 3 bright bursts of reflected light. They wait 30 seconds. Nothing. Patterson flashes again. 3 pulses. This time, there's a response. A single flash from near the boulder. Walsh acknowledging the signal. Morrison feels a surge of hope. Okay, he's alive, and he's watching us. Now what? How do we ask him about the minefield? The standard mirror code is useless, sir. 1 flash means enemy spotted. 2 flashes means all clear. 3 flashes means urgent. There's no code for mine locations or safe routes. Then we'll make one up. Flash him twice. All clear. See if he understands we're asking about the wadi. Patterson flashes twice. Walsh responds with a single flash. Enemy spotted. Morrison frowns. That's not helpful. He's telling us there are enemies, which we already know. Try again. Flash 3 times, then point the mirror toward the wadi. Patterson does so. Walsh's response is immediate. 3 flashes. Urgent. We're going in circles. Morrison runs a hand through his hair. He's trying to tell us something, but we can't understand him. Damn it. We need more than 3 signals. Captain Shaw suddenly speaks up. Sir, what if Walsh isn't limited to 3 signals? What if he can create a more complex code using sequences? What do you mean? Morse code, sir. Long flashes and short flashes. If Walsh knows Morse, he could transmit actual messages. Morrison shakes his head. Walsh is a scout, not a radio man. I doubt he knows Morse code. But Shaw's suggestion plants an idea. If sequences of flashes can convey complex information, maybe Walsh can invent his own code. Something simpler than Morse, but more detailed than the standard 3-signal system. Morrison grabs the binoculars again, studying Walsh's position. He's a smart kid, farm boy from Texas. His personnel file mentioned he was good at reading terrain. If anyone can figure this out, it's him. What Morrison doesn't know is that at that exact moment, 400 yards away, Daniel Walsh is staring at his signal mirror and having the exact same thought. Private Daniel Walsh grew up on a cattle ranch 30 miles outside Amarillo, Texas. His father ran 500 head across 8,000 acres of scrubland that barely supported vegetation. Water was scarce. Fencing was expensive. Keeping track of cattle across that much empty space was nearly impossible. His father's solution was mirrors. Not for communication, exactly, but for location signaling. Ranch hands working distant sections would catch the sun with small mirrors at specific times of day. Morning flash from the north pasture meant the cattle were there, and the hand was checking fence lines. Afternoon flash from the south ridge meant the herd had moved, and the hand was driving them back towards the home section. It was simple, effective, and required no equipment beyond a pocket mirror and clear weather. Walsh learned the system when he was 10 years old. By 12, he could identify which ranch hand was signaling just by the timing and location of the flashes. By 15, he and his father had developed a more complex version. A series of rapid flashes meant trouble, cattle out or fence down. Slow, steady flashes meant all clear. A pattern of 3 flashes, pause, 2 flashes meant return to the home ranch. It was never formalized. No written code, no official system. Just practical signaling developed over years of necessity. Walsh never thought of it as particularly clever. It was just how you communicated across distances on a cattle ranch. When Walsh joined the Army in 1941, the signal mirror training was laughably simple compared to what he already knew. The instructors taught 3 signals: enemy, clear, urgent, and considered that sufficient. Walsh kept his mouth shut and didn't mention that he'd been using more complex mirror signals since childhood. Now, lying against a boulder, with 847 men, depending on information he can't transmit, Walsh realizes his childhood might be the key to saving them. He watches Lieutenant Patterson flash the signal mirror from the battalion position. 3 flashes, urgent. Walsh understands they need information, but they're using the standard code, which can't convey anything useful about minefields or safe routes. Walsh needs to communicate something much more complex. He needs to tell Colonel Morrison that the wadi is mined, but that there's a safe route. He needs to describe the path, step by step, turn by turn. And he needs to do it with nothing but reflected sunlight. He considers the problem the way his father taught him to solve ranch problems. Start with what you have, then figure out what you need. What Walsh has is a mirror and sunlight. What he needs is a way to transmit navigation instructions. Navigation has 4 basic directions: north, south, east, west. What if each direction corresponds to a different flash pattern? 1 flash equals north, 2 flashes equals east, 3 flashes equals south, 4 flashes equals west. It's arbitrary, but it's simple enough that anyone could understand it quickly. But navigation also requires distance. It's not enough to say, go south. You need to say, go south for 50 yards, then turn east. How do you convey distance with mirror flashes? Walsh thinks. Flashes represent direction. Maybe the pause between flash sequences represents distance. Short pause equals short distance, maybe 10 yards. Long pause equals longer distance, maybe 50 yards. It's crude, it's imprecise, but it might work. Walsh angles his mirror toward the battalion position and begins flashing. 3 flashes south, long pause. 2 flashes east, short pause. 4 flashes west, long pause. He's transmitting nonsense, just testing whether they're paying attention to flash patterns rather than just counting total flashes. If they respond with confusion, he'll know they're at least trying to interpret a more complex code. At the battalion command post, Lieutenant Patterson watches the sequence of flashes and frowns. Sir, Walsh is flashing multiple sequences. 3, pause, 2, pause, 4. That's not standard code. Morrison grabs the binoculars. Maybe his mirror is malfunctioning. Sunlight catching the edge accidentally? No, sir. Those are deliberate flashes. Controlled. Evenly spaced. He's trying to tell us something, but I don't know what. Captain Shaw is staring at his map. Sir, what if the flashes correspond to directions? 3 flashes, 3 o'clock, east direction? No, wait. 3 could mean south. Compasses have 4 cardinal directions. 1, 2, 3, 4. North, east, south, west. Morrison considers this. So 3 flashes means south. He's telling us to go south? Shaw traces his finger across the map. The wadi runs southwest from our position. If Walsh is indicating direction, he's confirming the wadi is our route. Patterson adds, but he flashed again after the 3. He sent 2 flashes, then 4. If we're interpreting directions, that's east, then west. Morrison stares at the sequence. South, east, west. That doesn't make sense as a simple directional instruction. Unless, he pauses, unless he's describing a path. Go south, then turn east, then turn west. He's giving us a route. Shaw's eyes widen. Through the minefield. Sir, he's telling us how to navigate through the minefield. Morrison feels his pulse quicken. If that's true, if Walsh can actually communicate navigation instructions with mirror flashes, they have a chance. But they need to confirm Walsh understands what they're asking. Patterson, flash him 4 times. If our theory is correct, 4 flashes means west. Let's see if he responds with a logical sequence. Patterson flashes 4 times. Walsh responds immediately. 4 flashes back, confirming. Then 3 flashes. 1 flash. 2 flashes. Shaw writes it down. 4 acknowledged. Then he sent 3. 1, 2. If the code is directions, that's south, north, east. He's responding to our test with a sequence that proves he understands we're interpreting directions. Morrison makes a decision. Gentlemen, I think Private Walsh just invented a way to walk us through a minefield using sunlight. Now we need to figure out how to read his instructions accurately. What follows is a desperate 10-minute exchange of mirror flashes. Morrison's command group tests hypotheses. They flash sequences and watch how Walsh responds. They try to establish consistent meanings for different patterns. They determine that the number of flashes corresponds to compass directions. 1 flash equals north, 2 equals east, 3 equals south, 4 equals west. Walsh confirms this by responding to directional prompts with logical sequences. But distance remains unclear. Walsh keeps varying the pauses between flash sequences, sometimes short, sometimes long. Shaw finally realizes the pause represents distance. Short pause, about 1 second, equals short distance, approximately 10 yards. Long pause, about 3 seconds, equals longer distance, approximately 50 yards. It's imperfect. The distances are estimates. The directions are approximations. But it's infinitely better than walking blindly into a minefield. Morrison calls over Captain Richard Wheeler, the engineer officer. "Dick, I need you to watch Walsh's mirror signals and translate them into a route map. He's going to flash navigation instructions through the minefield. Your job is recording every direction and distance, then plotting a path we can follow." Wheeler looks skeptical. "Sir, this is insane. We're betting the battalion's survival on mirror flashes from a private who's improvising a code nobody's ever used before. You have a better idea, Captain?" Wheeler has no answer. "That's what I thought." Morrison turns to his S3, operations officer. "Major Carson, organize the battalion for movement. We cross that minefield in 30 minutes. Single file, 5-yard spacing. If Walsh's path is accurate, we walk out of here alive. If it's not, well, we weren't going to survive a German artillery barrage anyway." Carson salutes and begins issuing orders. Across the valley, rifle companies prepare to move. Platoon leaders brief their men. Nobody's happy about walking across a minefield at noon, but the alternative is staying in position and dying under artillery fire. Morrison raises his binoculars one more time, looking toward Walsh's position. "Kid, I hope you know what you're doing, because in 30 minutes, 847 men are going to follow your mirror flashes into a minefield." 400 yards away, Daniel Walsh sees the battalion begin organizing for movement. He understands what's about to happen. They're trusting him. They're trusting his improvised code and his ability to identify safe routes through mined ground. Walsh is terrified. He's 22 years old. He's been in combat for exactly 9 weeks. He's never done anything like this before. Nobody has ever done anything like this before. But the minefield is there. The safe route is there. He's studied it for hours. He knows where the mines are concentrated and where the gaps exist. The information is in his head. The only question is whether he can transmit that information accurately enough using reflected sunlight. Walsh checks his equipment one more time. Signal mirror, clean and positioned to catch the afternoon sun. Binoculars, to watch the lead elements and adjust instructions if they drift off course. Compass, to verify directions. Notebook, with a rough sketch of the minefield and the route he's identified. He takes a deep breath, offers a brief prayer to a God he's not entirely sure exists, and prepares to guide 847 men through a minefield using nothing but mirrors and sunlight. At 14:20 hours, the 2nd Battalion begins moving. Captain Thomas Ryder, commanding Easy Company, leads the advance. His company has been designated the lead element because Ryder is Morrison's most experienced company commander and because someone has to go first. Ryder walks point personally. Behind him, his first platoon follows in single file, 5 yards between each man. The spacing is critical. If someone steps on a mine, the blast shouldn't injure anyone else. It's cold comfort, but it's better than bunching up. They reach the edge of the wadi at 14:25 hours. Ryder stops, scanning the ground ahead. The wadi stretches 300 yards to the southwest, gradually descending towards the main supply route. The ground is hard-packed dirt and scattered rocks. No obvious signs of mines, but that means nothing. German engineers are experts at concealment. Ryder looks back towards the battalion command post, 200 yards behind him. He can see Morrison and his staff watching through binoculars. He can see Patterson holding a signal mirror, ready to relay instructions from Walsh. Then he sees the first flash from Walsh's position, a bright pulse of reflected sunlight. One flash, north, but they're not moving north. Ryder is confused for a moment, then realizes Walsh is providing an initial reference point, confirming their position and orientation. One flash, north, meaning Ryder is currently facing north and needs to adjust his heading. Patterson relays the message by flashing once toward Ryder. Ryder understands. He turns to face north, using his compass to verify direction, then looks back toward Patterson for the next instruction. Walsh sends 3 flashes. South. Long pause. Patterson relays 3 flashes. Ryder turns 180 degrees to face south, now pointing directly into the wadi. The long pause indicates significant distance, approximately 50 yards. He begins walking, counting his paces. At 50 yards, he stops and looks back for the next instruction. Walsh sends 2 flashes. East. Short pause. Ryder adjusts his heading, turning east. The short pause means short distance, 10 yards. He walks 10 yards, carefully scanning the ground for any disturbance that might indicate mines. He sees nothing obvious. Walsh sends 3 flashes. South. Medium pause. Ryder turns south again and walks 30 yards. Still no signs of mines. But he's now deep into the wadi, the area most likely to be mined. His heart is pounding. Every step could be his last. Walsh sends 4 flashes. West. Short pause. Ryder turns west, walks 10 yards. His route is becoming a zigzag pattern, weaving between invisible threats. He has to trust that Walsh can actually see mine indicators from his elevated position. He has to trust that the improvised mirror code is accurate. He has to trust his life to a 22-year-old private he's never met. Walsh sends 3 flashes. South. Long pause. Ryder turns south and walks 50 yards. He's now halfway through the wadi, still alive. His platoon follows behind him, each man walking the exact path Ryder walked, stepping in his footprints when possible. The process continues for 20 agonizing minutes. Flash sequences from Walsh, relayed by Patterson, interpreted by Ryder, executed one careful step at a time. North, east, south, west. Long pauses, short pauses. Turn, walk, stop. Wait for the next instruction. At 14:47 hours, Ryder reaches the far side of the wadi. He's crossed 300 yards of mined ground without incident. Behind him, his entire platoon has followed successfully. Not a single mine has detonated. Ryder drops to one knee, breathing hard. His hands are shaking. He's just walked through a German minefield at noon, guided by mirror flashes, and survived. It's impossible, but it happened. He looks back toward Walsh's position, raises his arm, and waves. A tiny gesture of gratitude across 400 yards. Walsh sees the wave. He allows himself a moment of relief, then refocuses. One platoon down. The entire battalion still needs to cross. He checks his notes, verifies his reference points, and prepares to guide the next element. For the next 2 hours, Walsh repeats the process. As each platoon reaches the wadi entrance, he provides the same sequence of directions. 3 flashes south, 2 flashes east, 4 flashes west, adjusting slightly as he observes where each group is positioned and how they drift during movement. Captain Wheeler, the engineer officer, follows with the battalion staff. He's recording Walsh's instructions, sketching the route on his map. Every flash sequence, every turn, every distance. When this is over, Wheeler will have a complete map, of the safe path through the minefield, all derived from mirror flashes. At 1612 hours, the last element of the battalion, the headquarters company, begins crossing. Colonel Morrison walks with them, refusing to send his men through danger he won't face himself. He follows the same zigzag path, trusting Walsh's directions, placing his life in the hands of a private he promoted to scout 3 weeks ago, based on a recommendation that Walsh had good instincts about terrain. At 1638 hours, Morrison steps out of the wadi onto clear ground. Behind him, 847 men have successfully crossed a German minefield in broad daylight. 0 casualties. 0 mines detonated. It's statistically impossible, but the evidence is undeniable. They're all alive. Morrison turns to Captain Shaw. "Get Walsh back here. I want to shake that kid's hand." A runner sprints forward to Walsh's position, bringing him back to the battalion assembly area. Walsh arrives 20 minutes later, expecting to be debriefed about German positions and enemy movements. Instead, he finds 847 men standing in formation. Colonel Morrison approaches. Private Walsh, front and center. Walsh snaps to attention, confused. "Sir, you were just performing the most remarkable act of battlefield communication I've witnessed in 20 years of service." Morrison's voice carries across the formation. This man, using nothing but a signal mirror and improvised code, guided this entire battalion through a live minefield without a single casualty. He invented a navigation system that doesn't exist in any Army manual. He saved 847 lives today. The battalion erupts in applause. Walsh stands frozen, overwhelmed. He didn't think he did anything special. He just used mirrors the way his father taught him on the ranch. He just applied childhood lessons to a military problem. Morrison continues. "Private Walsh, effective immediately, you're promoted to sergeant. Additionally, I'm recommending you for the Silver Star. Your actions today were extraordinary." Walsh finally finds his voice. "Sir, it was just mirrors. I didn't do anything anyone else couldn't have done." Morrison smiles. "Sergeant, 847 men are alive because you refused to accept that communication was impossible. You found a way when everyone else, including me, thought there was no way. That's the definition of extraordinary." What Walsh doesn't know, what he cannot predict, as he stands before his battalion, is that his improvised mirror code is about to change Army doctrine. Within weeks, every scout and forward observer in North Africa will be trained in the Walsh method. Within months, the technique will be taught at Fort Benning Scout School. Within a year, signal mirrors will be issued with expanded instruction manuals detailing multi-flash navigation codes. And 60 years later, military historians will study the Battle of Casserine Pass and note a footnote about Sergeant Daniel Walsh, the farm boy who invented a communications system that saved a battalion and influenced forward observer procedures for generations. The immediate aftermath of the minefield crossing brings unexpected complications. Captain Wheeler, the engineer officer, wants to verify Walsh's route. The following morning, April 24th, Wheeler leads a mine clearance team into the wadi, following the exact path Walsh indicated with his mirror flashes. They find mines everywhere. Tellermine 35 anti-tank mines, buried at irregular intervals along the wadi floor. Shoe mines scattered among the larger mines, designed to kill engineers attempting to clear the teller mines. Tripwires connected to artillery shells. Improvised booby traps that would devastate anyone disturbing them. Wheeler maps each mine location, creating a detailed diagram of the entire minefield. When he overlays Walsh's mirror-guided route onto the mine map, the result is stunning. Walsh's path weaves between mines with an average clearance of only 4 to 6 feet. In several locations, the safe corridor narrows to less than 3 feet. Wheeler brings the map to Morrison. "Sir, I need to show you something. This is the minefield. These red marks are confirmed mine locations. This blue line is the route Walsh guided us through." Morrison studies the map. His face goes pale. Jesus Christ. We walked within feet of these mines? In some places, within inches, sir. There are sections where if anyone had drifted more than 2 steps to either side, they would have triggered a mine. The margins were razor thin. How did Walsh identify such a precise route from 400 yards away? Wheeler shakes his head. "I have no idea, sir. I'm a trained engineer with years of mine warfare experience. Looking at that wadi from Walsh's observation point, even knowing where the mines are now, I can barely see the indicators. Walsh identified them from memory after watching the ground for a few hours. It's extraordinary." Morrison looks toward the observation point where Walsh spent that critical morning. The kid's got a gift. The question is whether we can teach others to do what he did, or if we just got lucky with one exceptional soldier. The answer emerges over the following weeks. As word of Walsh's achievement spreads, other units attempt similar techniques. The results are mixed. Some scouts successfully use multi-flash mirror codes to guide patrols around obstacles or through dangerous terrain. Others struggle with the complexity, reverting to simple 3-flash signals. The problem isn't the concept. The problem is that Walsh's method requires 3 simultaneous skills: the ability to read terrain and identify threats from a distance, the ability to create and communicate a navigation code under pressure, and the ability to maintain precision over extended periods while under observation by enemy forces. Most scouts have 1 or 2 of these skills. Few have all 3. In May 1943, the Army Ground Forces Command dispatches Major William Hendricks, a training and doctrine specialist, to interview Walsh and document his technique. Hendricks spends 3 days with Walsh, observing him work, asking detailed questions about how he identifies mine indicators and how he developed the mirror flash code. Hendricks's report, filed June 2, 1943, becomes the foundation for updated scout training doctrine. The key findings: mirror flash navigation is viable, but requires extensive training in both terrain analysis and communication protocols. The technique is most effective when the observer has elevated position and clear line of sight to the unit being guided. Distance limitations exist. Beyond 600 yards, mirror flashes become difficult to see clearly. Weather and time of day affect reliability. Overcast conditions or low sun angles reduce effectiveness. Hendricks recommends formal training for all scout and forward observer personnel, standardized flash codes to ensure universal understanding, and practice exercises where students guide blindfolded partners through obstacle courses using only mirror signals. By August 1943, the first formalized mirror navigation course is taught at Fort Benning. The instructors use Walsh's Casserine Pass crossing as the primary case study. The course curriculum includes compass work, terrain analysis, mine indicator recognition, and communication protocols. But the technique remains challenging. Of the first 200 students who attempt the course, only 47 achieve passing scores. The Army realizes Walsh's success wasn't just technique. It was intuition, experience, and a childhood spent reading terrain on a Texas cattle ranch. You can teach the mechanics, but you can't easily teach the instinct. Walsh himself becomes an instructor in late 1943. Transferred stateside to Fort Benning, he spends 6 months teaching mirror navigation to scout candidates. His teaching style is practical, not theoretical. He doesn't lecture about principles. He takes students into the field and shows them what to look for. "Stop thinking like soldiers," he tells one class. "Think like you're trying to move cattle across rough country. Where would the cattle naturally walk? Where would they avoid? Animals have instincts about safe ground. Trust those same instincts. It's unorthodox advice for military training, but it works. Students trained by Walsh show significantly higher proficiency rates than those trained by conventional instructors. The Army takes note, incorporating Walsh's teaching methods into the formal curriculum. By 1944, mirror flash navigation is standard training for reconnaissance personnel across all theaters. In Europe, scouts use the technique to guide patrols through destroyed cities where radio communication is unreliable. In the Pacific, observers on elevated positions direct landing craft through coral reefs and beach obstacles. The technique saves countless lives. A post